Hey, it's Mark from DerbyWars, and we've got the $25,000 head-to-head championship on, and we're down to the final four. And I'm talking with Jasen Mangrum, otherwise known as Spongeworthy. And Jason's made it to the final four, 4-0. Congratulations.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
And quite a run. You said you qualified the first time, and got to feel good to put four wins together and be playing for $10,000 total this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be, if I'm able to pull it off, it's still a tough task. I'm only 2/3 of the way there, but it would be the biggest score that I've ever had. So yeah, I'm really, really excited.
Well, great. And you've already got an entry to the $100,000 game, got some cash, and now you're kind of playing with house money, but you said you're anxious to do a lot of study and already got to get ready for Saturday, right?
Yep, already have my past performances downloaded and ready to do my homework.
So, all right. So you 4-0. You squeaked by Saratoga 23-21. Beat Jockey Wins 31-16. You closed at the wire to beat Seaside Outcast $35 to $33. Actually won by $1.60. And then you beat Mike Y 43 to 35 to get into the final four. So been consistent, but been some nail biters along the way, haven't there?
Yeah, very, very nervous moments, especially on Saturday. Of the four matches thus far, Saturday I was behind going into the last race, whereas the other three I was ahead going into the last race. So I needed to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and luckily I did.
And tell us about that. How did you go about selecting the horse that you did, and were you worried about getting blocked in that last race?
I was a little worried about getting blocked. The first contest race, there was a Ken and Sarah Ramsey horse that was also trained by Mike Maker. It was a Kitten's Joy on the Turf, and both of us selected that horse. And in the last race, the actual betting favorite was the same scenario as a Kitten's Joy on the Turf for Ramsey and Maker. So I was hoping that my opponent was going to take him, just since he was the favorite and the connections to try to block me out. And I really honestly didn't like that horse too well. And the Clement horse, Clement's, great with layoff horses, great with turf horses. And the horse had a lot of back class. I believe he or she was running in group races in France. Even though it was a minor stakes race, it was almost a class drop for the horse. So I really like that horse.
Oh, that's great. And 3-1, got the right price, and just enough to kind of come back, and $13.60 for the win, and that's about what you needed to get there in the last, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting when I put that selection in. The horse I selected and then the Ramsey horse, they were both 5-2, okay. And I was looking at the pools, and the Ramsey horse had about $3,000 more to win, even though they were both 5-2. So I was thinking, if my selection won, he would pay probably $760 or $780, and I was down exactly $12. And in the place pool, it was the same thing. So I was thinking, my horse might pay $420, $440 to place, depending on who ran second with him. So I was thinking, even if the horse went off at 5-2, he was at least going to pay $12.20 to where, because all I needed was $12.20 for the win.
Yeah, wow. So that was cutting it close, but yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, you probably had just enough to get to the $12, and with him paying a little bit more, $13.60 definitely got you there. So that was definitely that horse was really the difference maker in four of the games on Saturday as they wound down, and it's interesting. And now in some of the other games, what was the strategy as you were on the lead in the last races? Did you end up blocking your opponent's picks at all, or how did you look at those differently?
Well, I tried to block my opponents. Actually, on Sunday, though, my opponent had an early lead, and then I took, midway through the contest, I took the lead and I held it. And the next to last race, my opponent picked a long shot that ran second. I was up about $25, I believe, roughly, and he had a horse that paid $14 and change to place. And so he closed the gap to less than $10. And going into the last race, I like the two favorites looked logical, and actually the second favorite won. I selected the favorite to try to lock out my opponent, but my opponent picked a 31-1 shot, which totally surprised me. So I tried to lock them out, but I don't know if he put in his picks prior to, and then had other, engagements and didn't look at how things were shaking out during the contest. But when our picks popped up and he had a 31-1 shot, I was pretty surprised, to say the least. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, definitely. That's it's interesting, and every contest is definitely different. And how do you think the head-to-heads are different than playing a regular contest?
This field is comprised of a lot of great players, but in a head-to-head matchup, anybody can beat anyone, and you don't necessarily need that big bomb. In big contests, there's also great players. All these great players that comprise this field playing in a regular tournament as well. And if they're all in the same tournament and a long shot comes in, a couple of them are so sharp that they're going to have that bomb. But if it's just them, it's tough for them to come up with that force. I mean, so that's how logical play is much more conducive to head-to-head. As long as you can keep cashing tickets and put the pressure on the other person to make them catch you and pick that prize. Whereas in the field of, whatever, 50, 200, 300 people, if there's a prize, at least one person is going to have it, if not 5 or 10, but more than likely your opponent's not going to have that horse. Yeah. So you don't have to constantly play that catch-up game.
And do you feel like you're really playing that other opponent and kind of getting frustrated when he gets ahead of you and feeling like you've gotten the advantage as you get ahead of him as you go throughout the day?
Yes, absolutely. On Saturday, I made a mistake. I got down early, and obviously on Saturday I won on the last race. But early on, my opponent, forged ahead. I think it was the second or third race. He had a horse that was 5 or 6 to 1 that won, and I ended up I got a little anxious, and there was a horse at Aqueduct that was around 4 to 1, and I really liked that horse. And up until about 5 minutes till post time, that horse was my selection. I ended up hopping off of him because his combined win and place price wouldn't get me the lead. I was too worried about taking the lead in the 4th race rather than the 12th race. And I just, you gotta remind yourself it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
So that's one real key, element. That's so I really try to play the opponent. And sometimes I try to figure out, or you try to maybe guess who they're taking. I've been looking at past results, from the first couple of rounds, and see, do they pick long shots? Do they pick favorites? Do they pick a combination of the two? I mean, so there's a little homework involved as far as who you're playing as well.
It's exciting. Good luck on Saturday. $5,000 if you can make it through to the finals, and $10,000 to the winners. So exciting. Hope you can get some sleep Friday night and get some good study in.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.